Okay, well, I think let's go ahead and get started here. Here on the line today. My name's Natalie. I'm an account executive at Parade. I've been with Parade for coming up on 5 years here. We've got Jay Pelkey, who is the CEO of MyCarrierPackets, and then we have Lindsay Watt, who is the VP of Product here at Parade. And the focus of today's conversation is really going to be all around double brokering and fraud. We're going to talk through some of what we've heard from our client base and what we've seen in the industry, as well as some product pieces that are coming out in the near future. Jay, Lindsay, anything to add there before I jump in?
No.
Perfect. Okay. So just to give you all a little bit of background on Parade, if you're not yet familiar, Parade, we define ourselves as capacity management. And so really we're focused on all things carrier sales piece, wanting to make sure that your carrier sales team is the best that they can be, and also making sure that you're your carrier's favorite brokerage to work with. And, in this market now, we recognize that trust and security are critical components of that as well. So we're going to talk through some of the pieces that we've done to kind of start to work through that. So making sure that we're vetting carriers before we work with them, monitoring carrier activities and maintaining open lines of communication, but then also making sure that we're integrated with the right technology. So MyCarrierPackets is one of our really close partners, and so glad to be joined with them here today. One thing to note here as well as we begin to talk about security, we're going to be talking about some of the product pieces that MyCarrierPackets has developed and Parade has developed as well. So Jay, I'm going to hand it to you to talk to talk about MyCarrierPackets a little bit.
Yeah, so MyCarrierPackets has been around for 12, 13 years. We are the largest carrier onboarding portal in the transportation industry. I myself, I'm actually the founder of the very first carrier onboarding portal in the transportation industry. I built the RMIS onboarding portal. I also helped design and build the truck stop and DAT carrier onboarding, and I also manage the certificate warehouses for all of those companies as well for the last 20 years. The MyCarrierPackets portal has a ton of different benefits. These are just a few. We can go on and on, but we actually hold daily demos if you want to get more information on how that works. It's way too involved for this meeting. I don't think I'm going to waste their time either, but definitely decreases internal costs, improves the efficiency, lowers your exposure of fraud, expedites your setup time with your carriers, allows carriers to load with shippers and freight brokers. When insurance companies are closed, we have a database of over 200,000 certificates of insurance. We have a proprietary Televite system that validates the identity of any carrier user that onboards through MyCarrierPackets, and soon any carrier monitored in your MyCarrierPackets portal. We also have our carrier compliance tools that you can utilize.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so just to kind of kick this off, I wanted to talk a little bit about what we're hearing from our client base around this idea of fraud and double brokering. And it's interesting because we hear both terms. We actually hear double brokering twice as often as fraud. We were just going through some of our internal data around that. A few quotes here that we've received from our client base, as well as some industry facts. So around 80% of brokers are experiencing fraud. I can say from my conversations, I would say that's closer to 100%. I think some folks just have more egregious stories than others. We got some data here from Truckstop that 40% increase, a 400% increase in double brokering complaints. And then a few quotes here from our clients as well. And, Lindsay, before we jump in here, and I want to hear from Jay as his thoughts on this as well, I'd love to hear, can you expand on Parade's positioning for fraud and double brokering?
Yeah, for sure. So I think the key thing we want to do is, as you learn more about Parade, one of the things we're very good at is helping you speed transactions, right? We generate digital quotes, we generate digital bookings. And in order to be able to do that, you need to have the confidence that the partners you're working with, the carriers you're working with, are actually who they represent themselves to be. And so we do a couple things to do that. Number one, we're talking with Jay today because we do deep integrations with MyCarrierPackets to basically spike any carrier who is not credible from even accessing your tools. And MyCarrierPackets is probably one of the best tools in the industry, and that's why we're partnering with them. But the critical thing is let's keep fraud out of the marketplace so that you can transact quickly with confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And Jay, what about you from the MyCarrierPackets side? What are you hearing from your client base?
Yeah. So, well, thank you for the compliment, Lindsay. We're glad to have you guys as a partner too. I think it's a great integration, and the two tools have a lot of synergy that we offer our customers. But on our side, I've never actually booked a load in my life. I've never brokered a load. Everything that you see on MyCarrierPackets has been created by our over 1,200 companies now who say, hey, we need this, we need that, deep investigations into different scenarios. So when I started hearing the big buzzword of double brokering, which has just been in the last, couple, 3 months, that I definitely started doing some research with over, I think 20 or 30 companies and find out what they're seeing and what their specific experiences are. And there's some similarities in all of the different situations. So we came up with some new products that we'll talk about here in a few that are directly created to solve those issues that people are having and eliminate them almost completely.
I love that. And you talked about seeing some trends and similarities. I'd love to learn more about what your experience has been with how fraud has evolved over the last, 6 months, year. What has MyCarrierPackets seen?
Yeah, so it's really been the last few months. I don't think any, double brokering in itself is simply you book a load with a carrier and they don't move the load. They give it to their buddy, or they broker it out to someone else without a broker license authority, and the other company picks it up. They move the freight, and then that company gets paid by the original, the broker, and then they take their cut and they pay the carrier. Generally, that's how double brokering works. That probably happens, a million times more than people even know about. I think it comes with the industry. It's just the way this industry works, and without it, you'd lose a significant amount of money. If we're all being honest with each other. So the problems that you have with those situations is, that guy is probably not qualifying the other carrier properly, number one. So if something happens and the guy's not properly insured, there's some exposure there. Not really on you, it's more of the other carrier. And then the other is if they don't actually pay the other carrier, which there's a way to prevent all of that stuff. So that's your normal double brokering. That's not what's going on today. I think most people misunderstand what the situation is, and they just need some education and some assistance on what to be mindful of. And so that's really the fraud scenarios where somebody, either it's an inside job or they know of a carrier that's onboarded with a company. They used to be an employee there, or they know somebody there, and they call up and they say, hey, send me the rate confirmation to this email, and it's very close to the real company's email, and then they either drive off into the sunset or they double broker it. So it's kind of a double broker situation, but it's not double broker, it's straight fraud. And then they don't pay that carrier. So again, there's ways to prevent that as well. And then the last one is these guys that just, they open their authority for a few months, rip off a bunch of people, and then they get shut down by the FMCSA. So that's probably the easiest one to avoid as well. That's the only three that I've seen during my research with working with all these companies. And I've also sent, mass emails out to all our clients asking them, if they've seen other scenarios, and pretty much that's what's going on.
So as you think about those three scenarios and the role of technology within those, how does MyCarrierPackets approach each of those differently?
Yeah, absolutely. So, inherently there's already features that exist. For example, if you hear about a carrier that has double brokered for someone else. Those are hearsay scenarios, but you just don't want them in your system. You can block them. There's a block option. You can also say, hey, if this guy's been blocked by, one or more companies, then we want to review those scenarios. So you can put in a review. There's double brokering flags. So if someone does get double brokered, then they can click on a double broker feature, which is also good for fraud. We also have the ability to shut down a carrier if we get word of any situation, any carrier user that's having an issue. So there's plenty of other ones. We got carrier ratings in there as well. And then of course our risk assessments. So that risk assessment that we have, there's an industry standard. A lot of people say they have an industry standard risk assessment, but it kind of stays the same forever. And like this, there's fraud going on right now. I don't know if it's fuel prices or what the industry, how it's working, but it's got to evolve. So on our end, we have the ability to change our risk assessments to prevent those fly-by-night guys that are getting their authority, ripping a bunch of people off. So you can, if you're using the industry standard checklist for risk assessments in MyCarrierPackets, it automatically takes care of it. If you're using a variation of it, you clone it and make your own. Just want to make sure you check that periodically to see if you need to add to it. So for ours, we can say, hey, if the guy hasn't been in business for 6 months, that's a review situation. If he's been in business not even a year and he hasn't had any inspections, he's obviously not moving freight with his trucks, right? Or if he has his authority, but he doesn't own any trucks. So all those are to protect you from those guys that are opening their authority, ripping people off, and then closing their doors. That will stop 99.9% of that, which is plenty. You're going to have a lot more problems in this industry if you can get rid of 99.9% of the chances of it happening. So we have the industry standard checklist that we have. And then we have our future tools. After my research that I did, I found out some ways, even though it's not double brokering, I found proper tools that people can use to validate identity in those scenarios where somebody's following up and saying, hey, send the rate confirmation to this email. I work for this company. So we're adding some tools for that, which we can discuss. And then, the normal double brokering really isn't a huge issue. It hasn't changed much, but we do have a product that we're coming out if people want to take advantage of that as well with validation of the numbers.
Yeah.
And Natalie, if I can
Yeah.
jump in, I just want to talk a little bit about how, Jay's talking about that industry leading approach to validating carriers and making sure they're credible. And I want to just talk about how we love that in Parade, kind of how we've used it, because we had a MyCarrierPackets customer come to us about 18 months ago, and they said, you know what, guys, Parade, you guys are giving me a fire hose of quotes. You're giving me a fire hose of great opportunities. Some of these carriers I just can't work with. They said, oh, tell us more, right? And I said, oh, well, to Jay's point, they've been in business for like less than 90 days. They're not ready for my freight yet. And we said, well, how do you figure that out? They said, oh, we go to MyCarrierPackets, and MyCarrierPackets, we set up our onboarding, and then there's a risk assessment that comes out of that. And at Parade, what we actually do is we actually call MyCarrierPackets. If you're a MyCarrierPackets customer, we'll call every time a quote comes in, every time anything comes into our system, we're going to go call Jay's system, and we're going to say, does this carrier pass your risk assessment? And if the answer is no, right, or if the answer is no, we don't think so, you're not even going to see that. We're just going to keep that riffraff out of the whole system, and you're never going to have to worry about it. So that's been super important for us, because that way, we'll remember who those carriers are, because maybe they graduate into like a good carrier a year from now, and you're ready to use them. But like for that, we're not going to actually enable your team to see those quotes, act on them, transact, because that's just putting your business at risk in a way that you don't want. So it's been that risk assessment, that ability to call it on the fly and just say, hey, is this carrier in good standing? Yes or no? And if no, why? We've woven that into the fabric of Parade just to help remove these sorts of risks.
That's awesome. I think stuff like that is definitely going to make Parade super successful. MyCarrierPackets has never wanted to be the end all for anything. We wanted to help network and provide tools for our partners and our customers. So adding that is just fantastic. Hopefully our team knows that we did that, or you guys did that, and then they can share that to our customers, our mutual customers as well, or companies that are interested in services with yours.
I love that. And when we think about just sort of the way that these technologies are continuing to evolve and the way that this problem is going to continue to evolve, do you have any thoughts around that, Jay?
Yeah, well, obviously there's only so many scam artists, right? So the only ones you really have to worry about are the ones that keep closing their authority and reopening it. But the other fraud situations are kind of, like we have 4 million onboardings through my carrier packets per year and growing. So that means there's even more millions and millions of loads that are moved with our risk assessments and our tools. So eventually these guys are either going to get put out of business because of, my carrier packages prevent people from using them, or, they're going to get burn other people that don't use my carrier packets because, you know, our customers are protected. There's only so many that are doing it. Everybody else is good. I mean, there's great carriers out there, wonderful carriers, even new carriers that are trying to be starting businesses. Doesn't mean they're bad. It just means they're trying to, break into the industry. So we're actually working on some tools for carriers and actually dispatching services too, to show those, because dispatchers can have bad reputations right off the bat. New carriers can have bad reputations right off the bat. And our company is not in the business of hurting carriers. We're in the business of shutting down bad guys and giving our customers the best tools possible to get their carriers set up at the lowest price possible. So that's kind of what our mentality has always been.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, and then I'd love to talk a little bit more about the way that the tools are continuing to work together. So really around this idea of some of the product details around what's going to be coming and how we're going to continue to collaborate. Lindsay, I might pass that one to you first.
Sure, and I think I want to follow up that with a question to Jay, which is to help drive this conversation, right? And so for our audience to listen today, maybe I'm oversimplifying. I'd love your perspective as someone who's on the front lines. When I think about the issues that our customers are facing, there's kind of two flavors of problems that I see. Problem one is there's a bad carrier. You just shouldn't work with this carrier, period. And you guys have absolutely nailed that problem to date with the risk assessment and everything else. And that's going to stop 99.9% of the problems. The second question is kind of the misrepresentation problem. And here, what we've heard is, I'm working with a carrier whose DOT number I trust, but now there's someone who's trying to pretend that they're that DOT. And that's kind of the infection vector sort of thing, right? Like I always get an email for the rate con from abccarrier.com, and now somebody wants me to send it to a Gmail. Like that's a little suspicious, right? And so that's the, I think do you have any thoughts on that as being like the big vector for fraud and how we can kind of address that?
That's the biggest one. That's the one that everybody should be focused on, because it's really not Bob at abctrucking.com. It's Bob at abcinc.com. So a lot of companies will see the email address, not think twice. They'll send them the rate confirmation because it's so close. Gmail is far enough away that people should look at that, and then they see abctrucking.com and go, what are you trying to do here? But when they're super close like that, that's even worse and harder to catch. Other scenario is also hard to catch. The Gmail or Yahoo situation is hard to catch as well. So in my carrier packets, one of our new services that we're offering, it should be launched before the end of this month, is a validation of identity. Currently, any carrier that onboards with our customers goes through IntelliWay, which is a proprietary validation of identity check, but that's for onboarding. So we're rolling that, and it's only so you send it over and they get validated, and we confirm positively that this guy works for this company and that he's able to complete a packet. So we're actually modifying that and offering it in our carrier profile page, and it'll be on our APIs for you guys too as well, where it will say, put in their email address, they put it in, hit send, and we'll see if we've already validated that user, whether they're able to complete a packet or not. We'll see if it's a valid driver, a valid dispatcher, if it belongs to another carrier, whatever, and we'll say, hey, this guy's good to go, or hey, this guy belongs to a different DOT number, or we're going to say, we don't know, hang tight, we're going to go check it out. And then our team, we have a whole department that will go through and validate that new user really does work for that company. And then within minutes, hopefully, usually 99% of the time, they're already either in our system or we get them validated within 5-10 minutes. So then they get an email saying, okay, this guy's good to go, or hey, we don't know, at your own risk, we couldn't get a hold of anybody. We don't know if this email is a good email or not. So that's one area. And then the other area is we have the carrier changes, contact changes within the last 60 days within the carrier portal. And we can add that to our risk assessment as well. Now that I think of it, where if a carrier has had any FMCSA contact changes within the last 30 or 60 days, then it will notify them, hey, this is a review situation. Make sure this guy didn't hack the FMCSA and change another guy's contact information to his, which is something else has been floating around a little bit. And then when we get FMCSA changes, we're also sending a notice to the carrier new user or new contact person and the old contact person, and with the FMCSA phone number. So we're actually helping the FMCSA vet these carriers and their changes for contact information potential hacking, which is kind of funny.
That's hilarious. Does that happen? Like this is, I mean, I'm always impressed by the creativity of hackers, right? Like these fraudulent. I don't like them. I hate them, but my God, are they ever creative, right? Like they evolve. And so do you see that? Do you see that happen?
Hell yeah. I mean, anytime somebody comes up with a new lock, somebody comes up with a new way to pick it. So really, the best thing you can do is just keep coming up with solutions and watching safety tools. Make sure you're doing it right too. Like, honestly, a lot of stuff that's out there is super gimmicky for catching double brokering. A lot of companies that haven't been around long enough to even understand what double brokering it is. You want to be careful of that kind of stuff. When we're working with carriers, we understand the industry and we understand what real tools look like. So you'll never see anything. And I've had people pissed off at me before because they're like, hey, put this on MyCarrierPackets. And I'm like, it's not a good idea. This is for everybody and it's not going to help you. Sometimes I say it's going to hurt you. They think it's going to help them, but it's something that potential have financial or legal exposure to their company. So I'll tell people no. And I may have lost a few customers because of that, but it's because I will not put anything out there just to sell a service. I'll put stuff out there that makes sense. And then we'll go through a panel of experts. We have some of the leaders in the industry that we go through when we launch things. We say, hey, here's what we're putting, here's what we think. And we have group discussions about it. So everything we do is super involved and helpful to customers. That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to say to everyone here on the line, we'd love if you could send some questions in through our Q&A or chat functions, and I'll read those out. We have one person who commented saying, they love the ability to leave notes for coworkers and their broker team within MyCarrierPackets. And I feel like that really speaks to even that idea of, a new broker who's coming on experiencing fraud for the first time. Hopefully they've got somebody on their team who's more tenured, and it's a great way for them to collaborate and share that feedback and say, hey, you might want to watch out for this.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And, that we are working on more public tools. Like we have the carrier rating to share with other companies as well. So the internal stuff is amazing. But when we share data across the board, some people don't like the double brokering alert, or I'm sorry, the blocking alert. It's because they don't understand. So they'll say, hey, this guy's blocked by 30 other companies. And I said, well, that's a review situation. And if you look at it, it's because they're in California. And they go, oh, okay. And I'm like, you look at other things, don't make that your determining factor just because they're blocked by other companies. See what may be the reason. So we're expanding that to have when people flag a double broker, or they give them a bad rating, or they block them, there's going to be an option to make it public. Because the other thing we don't want to do is have some crazy carrier showing up at someone's office because they made themselves public. So we have to give companies the ability to say, hey, I'm reporting this and I want people to know that this was done by my company and here's what happened. So we're going to expand some of the stuff. I know that's been a request for a while. So after I get these other things done, that'll be the next thing we address.
It's tough being a broker, right? You want to shout out information and you block them, and then next thing you know, you got a 1-star review on Google. So
Right.
I see this all the time. We have a similar
Right.
challenge with Parade, and one of the things we did is we launched a product called Carriers.fyi, which is meant to be used in conjunction with the tool like MCP, where what you can do is you can search for a DOT number and email address, and we have several $billion freight flowing through our platform, and we'll let you see like do we know this, right? So you've got the first line of defense is MyCarrierPackets, and then if you want to go a little level deeper, we've got some information there as well to help out, so that you can actually understand like, is this email known, or is this email address, this is a brand new thing that no one's seen, because brand new Gmail addresses are not beloved in freight.
Oh,
They're
that's
not good
awesome.
things.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome.
And Lindsay, I know just from my role working with prospective clients, I know I've received feedback over what other signals might become helpful for us to look at as we begin to address this issue. Can you speak to maybe what other areas Parade has considered looking at and what we might look at in the future for recognizing fraud signals? I know Jay said California, and that's kind of the running joke with everybody, but anything else that you can speak to?
Yeah, totally. I can. I mean, the most important thing for us is making sure that we've got great partners who deeply understand this problem. Like, one of the reasons we like working with Jay is his team gets up every morning and all they think about is fraud, right? They literally have a team of folks just thinking about what are all the bad things people are going to do, right? It's like the FBI of freight, so to speak. And we learn a lot from folks like Jay, right? Like, we learn a lot about how to think about, when you see an email for the first time, how do you think about it? When a carrier comes in, are they valid or not, based on what someone like MCP says? And so, how do we record if a bad actor is found? How do we make sure that that person can't reapply in 3 months' time, right? So those are some of the things that we consider a lot of. One of the things we don't try and do, I'll be honest, is we don't try and make broad sweeping statements like California bad, right? Like that is, I think in today's market where it's soft capacity, that's great. Any brokerage that tries to play a kind of coarse-grained game of like, oh, don't work with California carriers, you can get away with that now. 180 days from now, when the market turns, if you've got that policy and you forget about it, you're gonna be like, where are the trucks? Where are the trucks, right? And so we need to get to like, one of the things we love working with is a layer of nuance to help actually folks understand within every geography, within every type of area, there are good carriers and there are bad carriers, and how do we take all the knowledge that we've got and all the knowledge that Jay's got at MCP to make it work.
I love that. And we've got a good few questions coming in here over the Q&A channel as well. Jay, we've got a request to expand on this idea of bad dispatchers within MyCarrierPackets.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay. So I think that dispatchers, I think even the FMCSA is kind of starting to recognize that they are a real entity in the industry. The problem that they don't work with for onboarding is because if you're not an employee or actually a principal or an owner for a company, you can't sign a W-9, right? That's the big problem. And you can't sign an agreement technically. Now I know some people get what do you call it? I'm blank here. You have an agreement that you file with court, and somebody can probably chat the answer. You have the ability to sign for that company, basically. And I'm drowning, so go ahead and tell me it's very easy word. But anyway, but they do offer really cool stuff, because if I'm an owner op, right, and my job is driving trucks, I'm not an admin. I'm not doing paperwork. That's not my forte, right? So to have, and you don't do it enough to have a full-time job to hire somebody. So hiring a dispatching service internally is fine, but externally, that's where there's a lot of benefit for them to hire these companies. But there's also no DOT number associated to that dispatcher. And so you don't have a place where you can go to say, hey, does this guy really exist? And what carriers is he, a dispatcher for? So you can give it to him, but you don't know if he really works for that carrier, right? And you don't know if he's going to give it to that carrier. He could say, hey, I can't give it to this carrier, so I'm going to give it to one of my other ones. And does that other one, does he meet the criteria of our customer? You don't know, right? Because it's different DOT, different MC number. So there's some exposures working with the dispatcher. Or the bad one is another fraud scenario where they say, hey, I'm not even going to give this to one of my carriers. I'm going to go double broker it out to some other carrier. So there's bad dispatchers out there, just like there's bad carriers, and I hate to say it, there's bad brokers out there too. So, I've been talking with a lot of good dispatchers that really want to make a good business, and they have no backing. So I think a company like mine and Parade, we have the ability to help those companies to where we can say, hey, based on our research and experience, this dispatcher is an A-rated dispatcher, or this guy's probably a no-go based on what we've seen. They've had flags, things like that. More monitoring. Still, I don't know what to do about onboarding because they can't really sign a W-9 form, but more for the monitoring standpoint. That's kind of what our idea is. Hopefully that answered the question.
I think that's great. And someone suggested was power of attorney, the phrase.
Yeah, thank you. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. And question from our friend Andrew Wren. He's saying that one of the newest trends of double brokering is using an extremely similar email address that mimics a legit carrier. We've talked about that one. What can be done in regards to letting users report these emails and or allowing carriers to report these identities that might be compromised? So I guess like if a carrier knows that they're being imitated, how can they report it? And
well, so in MyCarrierPackets, only an authorized user can onboard. So that's cool. But we're kind of looking at it a little different. So when you have somebody sending you an email saying, hey, send me this rate confirmation, I'll take the load. You copy and paste that into MyCarrierPackets under the carrier profile, pull up their DOT number, open the profile page, and there'll be an area where it'll say validated users, carrier users. Not like the sending an invite for a packet, because those are not just validated identities for users, but there is also, this page will have driver's validation on it. So after a while, we'll have all of the users that work for that company, most likely at some point. But if they're not listed there, they'll be able to click validate, or just click validate and put in the email address, hit enter, and then we'll tell you whether that email address is good or not. That should work better than a reporting of the bad guys, because if you have a list like that, it might not work, but I'll give it more thought on adding something like that.
Great. We got a couple other questions here for MyCarrierPackets that are kind of, I think, do you do it today? Would you do it in the future? One here is around the idea of carrier education. So for example, if you're trying to coach your carriers to become one of your more trusted partners, do you all offer anything like that today, or would you in the future?
Hell yeah. Okay, but here's the deal and I just want to make it clear that I would love to be just a can of worms here and let you guys know exactly what we're working on, because we have so many cool things that we're working on. But I have some copycat companies that I'm dealing with that I have to hold things close to the chest until we get closer to the release, like these email address validations. So the answer is absolutely, and stay tuned. So I got some stuff coming for carriers and brokers for education. Better onboarding, faster onboarding, cool stuff.
Perfect. And then the next question is, does MyCarrierPackets monitor how many carriers a particular broker is blocking? For example, there might be rookie brokers who oversubmit reports.
Yeah. And the big thing is I try to get on my team to do that internally as well, because we've already sent notices out to our customers saying, hey, reporting blocking carriers is fine. Adding double brokering to penalize somebody is not okay. That's as bad as fraud, right? So we try, if we see an abnormal amount of carriers being flagged as double brokering, then we'll reach out to them and say, you need to make sure your employees are properly using the service, so your account doesn't get suspended. Because we don't want to hurt carriers, and saying they're double brokering when the carrier's just mad because they were late on dropping off a load is not cool. Right? And there's just no way to prevent everybody from not doing it. I mean, we do say a manager level or higher is the only ones that can report double brokering, but they still get through there depending on the company. So we can definitely look into adding some tools to show different companies. That will come with being public too, though, right? Because I said we can't show customers public, like, hey, ABC brokerage has this many double brokerings, and this carrier was blocked by that company or a double broker flag by this company, unless that company gives us permission. It's just a privacy, respect.
Perfect. Couple quick, I think really just technical questions here for MCP. Are you in Canada or just the US?
Canada and the US. So Canada is kind of the wild, wild north because, and most of them cross border. So as long as they have a DOT number, good to go. We can onboard them, track them with insurance certificates. We even have W-8 forms instead of W-9 forms when they onboard. We have lanes of service that they do. We have currencies on the certificates. So most of it's done, but there is that small group of carriers that I just don't want to rush and publish like I've seen done with other companies, where it's those guys that don't have a DOT number. They're intra-Canada only. Those are a tough one because, it's our reputation. So I don't want to show a carrier that someone can click on and it's just a bunch of crap in there that, it's not a real carrier. It's just someone in Canada doing fraud or something. There's just no way to do it right. So it's been an ongoing battle for me to find those. Luckily, like I said, most Canadian carriers cross border.
Perfect. And then Jay, do you recognize co-brokering in any way? And that was from Alex Howard at Supply Chain Solutions. Thanks, Alex.
Oh, co-brokering is awesome. Absolutely. I love that. You give them your risk assessment, they give them yours. You guys have an agreement that says your qualified carrier is the same. That's a great way of doing business, especially if you're in reefer and you got some flatbed freight, you can't do it. Co-broker out for a guy that specializes in it. That's just good business. Yeah, good question.
Okay, perfect. And I know we're coming up on time here shortly, so we'll get through these last few. I can speak from my conversations with brokers, and Charlie has brought it up here again. He's saying 100% of carriers domiciled or 100% of carriers domiciled in Glendale, Burbank, and North Hollywood are fraudulent actors. We just hear this time and time again. We've already spoken to it a bit. And I know when we were kind of having some of our planning meetings about this, it's kind of this idea that fraud's not going to not exist. We have a lot of great solutions in place. We're going to be able to handle this going forward. Anything that you guys feel like we haven't spoken to around that topic yet?
So it's funny because I live not too far away. Obviously, you can tell by the shirt I'm from California, but I'm not too far from Glendale. So it has crossed my mind. I would say probably 100 is a stretch, 100%, but probably like 90%. So I was thinking about finding some good carriers out there that I personally can talk to and research and offer those guys, because people still need to move freight in California, no matter how bad gas prices are out here or how bad the emission standards are. People have to get freight here, or otherwise California is not going to have any trucks. So, and I apologize personally for California's rules on all of that, but I definitely feel like there's some way I can help, especially not just being so close, but also being a risk assessment company. I think I'm probably the only company that can do that. So I've been just it's been on my mind to go into Glendale and audit some of these companies personally and see if they are legit or there's some shady brokerages. And I also have all of the names of every company all the carriers that are domiciled in Glendale, California. So I could definitely do this for everybody.
Perfect. And, we are at time here. I'd love to kind of end with just a closing statement from each of you. We've talked about this idea about there's these three main issues that continue to be prevalent. We've built a lot of great technologies around addressing these. Just if you could give that elevator pitch, 10,000 foot view for brokers on the line here, what can they have trust in as they think about going forward and addressing fraud?
You want to go, Lindsay?
I'll go first. Yeah. I think one of the key thing we do at Parade, the one thing that we want to give everyone is access to great carriers and the ability to transact quickly with them, right? And so we're building deep hooks into our own proprietary data, but also more importantly with our partners as well, into the services they provide, so that you can confidently know that every carrier that you work with through Parade is legitimate and is who they say they are. And so you can just accelerate your business and book with confidence. And so that's the key thing that we want folks to understand, and why we're going really deep with Jay today. And part of this is just to show that the depth of solutions that are out there and how you can use them across your business in multiple different ways.
Thank you. Jay, anything you'd add to that?
I mean, that pretty much says it all. I want to add, partnerships is great, utilizing our company, your company, anything we can to help the industry and protect our customers is something that I'm always listening to, but also customers. These questions that you guys are asking today, I know we're running out of time. Feel free to hit me up. This is literally all I do is build stuff for you guys and open to suggestions and helping you guys, grow with the punches that you get. And feel bad for some of the brokers that are out there. They get beaten up a lot in the industry. So I appreciate if anybody's already a customer of my carrier pack. It's great. I really appreciate you guys jumping on and listening to me babble here, and appreciate your guys' time, Natalie, with the silent H.